Hello and welcome to this edition of Elvenhome, which concentrates largely on the scenic work to create the garden square and the playground. You'll remember from the last episode that I'd started work on doing that. Well, now you'll see the completed playground by the end, with an interlude while I build one of the Ancornton model's Butty Huts, which is needed for something which sits in front of the railway hotel, which was the building that I decided was going to go in the vacant space. In response to my last video, Paul Chapman of Galgorm Hall planted a little seed as to what kind of style that building might be in, and I'll reveal more about that once we get to that part of the video. But I've been thinking about little else since. Thank you very much, Paul. So let's go back about a week and a half to when I started work on doing the garden square. Okay, well, it's time to start work on the garden square proper. All I've done so far, I've obviously painted up the scale model scenery school park railings, and they are very useful and very good in that they bend. As you can see, I've managed to bend them around the corners. You would, I think, be able to do them in a nice gentle curve as well. I've made pretty much 90-degree corners with this. And at the moment they're just set into slots, which I can take these out now because I'm going to be painting this shortly. Because what I've done is to put some thin stripped styrene to act, if I bring this up a bit, you'll see that I put a border of thin stripped styrene which acts as the thing into which I can set the park railings, and the overall depth that now gives means that it doesn't jut out through the bottom. So the first thing I wanted to do was to fit these railings, and then to drill the holes that I needed to drill to get all the pieces to fit in, because I was conscious that once I drilled the holes into the white, if I primed all this first and painted it, as soon as I drill the hole in, you'll see the white. So now I can paint this, and that will cover everything as well. So that's the next stage, to go and prime this. Putting the railings in has helped me, I think, work out how I'm going to lay the thing out. I won't put the railings back in, but there we go. Just in case you're worried, there's Billy No Mates on the swing. There's another child waiting to go on. I just need to put it back on. I think what I'm going to do is to have all of this side here as hard standing, with a path, probably a paved path through the centre. All of this green. See possibly about putting a tree or two on that side. And in reply to my last video, Garden Man 3 suggested that there should be a couple of picnic tables. I'm not sure I can get 2 in, but I know that Metcalfe do a picnic table kit. So I'll have a look at that, and possibly that there could be a picnic table here at which the parents sort of linger whilst their children are playing in the park. And I'm still minded to have paved areas at the end here, and have this area as a kind of strip of low bushes on earth, I think. Okay, well, I primed the base yesterday and let it dry, and I've just this moment finished gluing in the fencing, and that's all that's been done to it since you last saw. There's some painting which I've got to do on the top. You can see where I wasn't able to get paint to the top of the railings, and there's one or two places where, as I've bent it, it now needs touching up, so that will be done shortly. And the base in places I missed with the spray can, so that needs just to be done. And then I can start work on doing the scenic halves and the top and bottom. I've already cut out the pathway, and because this entrance is slightly lower than that entrance, I've used the card to straighten everything up. So if you can see on this piece of card, the cutout to go into the entrance is higher than the cutout at this side, but when I put it in, it remains parallel to the fencing, and therefore I don't get a wonky path, which is of course a thing to be avoided. I've cut out also the paths that are going on either end. So they will go in there like that. So I'll come back once I've worked out how I'm going to do all this, but also once I've done the play park side, the base, because I'll stick everything in as the right at the end. As you can see, I've stuck the paving stones on, and I've provided undercoats for the brown areas, which static grass will go onto, and then I will put some static grass on. This is a Humbrol acrylic that I've used, number 32, whatever that may be, which I had, which is just darker than the primer. And I'll probably, I think, go over that with some weathering powders just to break up the uniformity of the colour, but I don't think I'm going to do any more. And then I'll need to do the static grass on this side of things, which I will do. I'll probably try and record that. Every time I record something it goes wrong, which is making me a bit nervous. Okay, come back when I'm ready to start doing the static grass. Okay, well, since you've last seen it, I have put some of the Javis earth scatter on the ends, which you can see under the bushes, and then the bush has been stuck on top of that earth scatter, so that gives a border to the ends. And I've also put some little tufts of grass, I don't know if you can see them there, as if it's encroaching into the tarmac area. That was a suggestion from my wife, and I was cudgelling my brain how to do it, because to try and apply static grass with that degree of accuracy is quite tricky. And then it occurred to me that I made some of the tufts. I had one here it is, which you do by, if I bring one up here, this was bigger obviously because bits of it have been chopped off to go in here. You make these by just putting a drop of glue, whichever glue you like to use, and then dropping the scenic grass. The glue sits on greaseproof paper. You let it all dry, and then you're supposed to be able to peel these off the greaseproof paper. Only my greaseproof paper proved to be built of sturdier stuff. But what I have been able to do there is just snip little bits off. I think that's probably gone out of focus. There we go. Snip little bits off and apply it then to the paving, and I may put a bit more on. I tried to be random, but looking at it, I've been very ordered and regular, so we'll see where we go. But the thing that I'm going to do now is put static grass into this brown area, which is going to be wholly grassed, and then bushes and things will be stuck on top so that there's grass throughout. I think I prefer to do it that way, because otherwise trying to get static grass to go in the gaps where you've left is really quite tricky, and I prefer to do it that way round. I've got a mix here of 1 and 2 millimeter grass, and it's both summer and spring, because I don't like to use just one colour. Grass doesn't look like that, and by having a mix, I think it gives a more natural look. So I'm using the Pico Scene basing glue. When I was at Worley 2 years ago now, or about 18 months ago now, I was the only person being given a demonstration of how to do static grassing, and I felt honour bound to buy their basing glue. But others use neat PVA, others use it in a water mix. I think anything up to 50% PVA, 50% water, but I'm quite happy using this stuff. So plenty of this, because that's what the static grass is going to sit in, and then make sure that the whole area that I want the grass to sit in is covered, but only what I want the grass to stick onto is covered, because I don't want grass growing out of the park railings. So we take our time a little bit over this, make sure that we've got good coverage everywhere that I want the grass to be. I may have been a bit generous with the glue there, but on the other hand, I don't really want to have to go and put any more on. So let's just do that. So the glue is on. Fill the hopper with a good amount of this stuff, because I can hoover up any that doesn't stick. I'll go the whole hog, why not? And all I have to do with this one is just put the clip near here, and then it should work. So we'll turn it on, place that there, and we'll start covering the area. Give it a good liberal covering. I can afford to do that. And now we will leave that to dry for a little bit, and then I'll hoover off the excess and we'll see what we've got left. Okay, well, the hoover's done its job. This is no more than 5 or 10 minutes since the last piece of video, and you can see that the grass has gone in. You can see that you've got variegated, and I deliberately have used only really quite short grass. I don't want this to look like a manicured lawn, because it is a garden square at the end of a row of terraced houses. It's not parkland. When I come to do the area around the memorial gardens, I will probably layer that, because I've not got it out on the desk. But in addition to the basing glue, you get a spray for layering. So you would do each size of grass consecutively. And I think for that it will have a deeper green, because it's going to be better kept than this. This doesn't really get much tending, so I'm quite happy with that. The next thing to do now is to put some bushes and wait for the Metcalf kit to arrive to build the picnic table, to see if that fits in, which I'm hoping it will. And when I come back, I'll have completed that piece of work, and we'll have the finished article. But the bushes will be no more than clump foliage or underbrush. At Engage, those two things get you out of most things, because as you'll have seen on the incline, when I did the incline, you can use the lump foliage or clump foliage really to represent quite bushy trees. I did think about putting trees in here, but I think they would overpower it. It's not a very big square. So I think the lump foliage, if I use that properly with the underbrush, will give a bit of interest in various places. So I'll come back once I've completed that last bit, and we should have pretty much the final garden square done. Well, we're a couple of days on from the last clip. And as I thought, this is now pretty much finished, and it's also given me the opportunity for the picnic table to arrive. And also I've completely forgotten that I'd purchased a kit for some park benches with some figures. It was an unpainted kit. There was no making up. The benches come ready cast. But they did need to be painted, so they've been painted, and the figures painted similarly. It's just a white metal kit, again Langley. And as I said I would do, I used, and this is only lump foliage, there's no underbrush in here, It's 3 colours of lump foliage, 4, I tell a lie. There's the dark green, there is mid green, light green, and then one which I think is called olive. But just little bits of those formed and fashioned around gives you an idea of bushes or perhaps small trees. And I also then put some hedge in to separate off the grass area from the path. And this is one of the Metcalfe picnic tables, which I built. The kit comes much lighter than that. And I've used some weathering powder, which was the dark earth weathering powder from Umbro, which I then made a loose washover of and just painted over the table to give me a darker look. If I show you the packet in which it comes, you can see the test piece there as well. That's the colour that it actually comes in. And if I get it to focus on now what I wanted to focus on, that's darkened it down quite nicely. I've also had a first go at attempting to weather the paving, which is using, I can't remember which one, smoke, I think, of the weathering powders, and dry brushing that. A bit heavy in places, but actually it does give the idea that the paving is not brand new. And I'm quite pleased with this. I think the garden square will look really nice at the end of the terraces, and it will put some colour into that area other than just the varying tones of grey. I suppose the doors have colour in them, but not that much. And the little Langley kit, both kits, but particularly the park kit, has gone really well. And as you see, I've just used the 3 items, the seesaw and its occupants. I've gone into the spares box until I need anything. And the railings have worked well from Scale Model Scenery. So that, as far as I'm concerned, is a completed piece of work, and I'm really quite pleased with it. So we'll move on to the next section of the video. Well, the clip you just saw, and you saw it go by again, is my birthday present. It's actually my birthday today when I'm recording this on the Tuesday. It's a very generous gift from a number of people of the Dapol box set, which is the Flying Scotsman and 4 Gresley teak coaches with light bars fitted, together with 4 other coaches to make up an 8-coach rake. Unfortunately, by the time we bought the other coaches, Dapol had ceased to have a supplier for the warm white light bars, so I have to wait until I get those again. But on to the layout now, and as you can see, there's the square in its place, and I've begun the work of laying the paving around the station. So at the moment the only paving that's gone in is that which bounds the area where lorries park to offload material, and I'm starting to think a bit about what sorts of accessories would be in there to help them get things off of lorries and onto barrows to be taken up the ramp and into the parcels or down onto the station. Coming round slightly to the left, you will see the white card. That's always an indication that there is scratch building ahead. And I mentioned at the start that Paul Chapman of Galgorm Hall had dropped an idea into my mind in the comments to the last video. I'd originally intended for this to be a mid-Victorian hotel, but he suggested to me, wouldn't it be nice as an Art Deco hotel? Now the fire station, which you can see just behind, is in an Art Deco style, but the squarer, boxier type of Art Deco, and is based, as you will recall, on fire stations built in London in the 1930s in the Art Deco style. This building is going to be more classically Art Deco, and Paul wasn't to know that if you asked me for my favourite built railway hotel, I would have mentioned the hotel built by the London Midland and Scottish region at Morecambe, which I think has been refurbished and is called the Midland Hotel. So I have spent probably the best part of the last 2 weeks researching and looking at hotels, Art Deco hotels, and I'm getting closer both to finalising the design of that hotel, but also to working out how I'm going to build it, because one of the hallmarks of Art Deco is a marriage between straight lines and curves, and this hotel is going to marry those two things together. So more on that in the next episode of Elvenhome, because I'm getting closer and closer to settling the design, but I don't want to reveal too much now in case it changes, because it's changed several times already this week. But I'm beginning to understand how I would put it together, and it will be quite a complex scratch build. Turning to another thing that I've been doing, if I zoom in a bit more and move the coaling stage, you will see that the market square is coming to life. Those are two sets of the Metcalfe market stalls at N gauge, so they're quite small. Eventually I want to put another 3 sets on top, so we have a market of about 20 stalls, and I think that will work. And you can see Betty's Baps tea and coffee buns stall is at the back. My wife, who is an artist, helped me by I downloaded the PDF from Metcalfe Models. Various awnings come with the kit, but there are more on the Metcalfe site, and she was able to use that PDF in her on her iPad and apply some weathering effects to the awnings to give them that well-used look, particularly at the edges where you score and fold to bring them round. And I'll put up a picture here which shows how they come with the kit and the weathering that she'd done. And I'm really very impressed both with her skill as an artist generally, but also specifically the work that she's done here for me on the awnings. So that's made this a rather longer, because this conclusion has been rather longer than I expected, video than I would like most months. But I think, given that my birthday present is hurtling round, that was a good thing to do. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please do give it a like, and please do subscribe and hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm uploading. It'll be really good to have you along. Thank you to everybody that gives me comments. Please keep them coming. As you will see, what's happening in front of the station is already being affected by what people have said. And the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that the engine shed there has moved from where it has been for a while, because I'm trying out a new layout to make sure I've got enough room for things like police stations and petrol stations. So it's all incredibly helpful when people give me comments, and I'm really, really grateful for them. So until I see you again, by when I will have settled on the design for the hotel, the railway hotel, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.